Dale brought a 2019 Ford F-150 into the shop last October. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost, 112,000 miles on the odometer, and a check engine light that had been throbbing on and off for 2 weeks. He'd already been to a chain parts store, gotten the code read for free, P0101, mass airflow sensor circuit range, or performance, and Googled it. The internet told him the fix was cleaning the MAF sensor. WD-40 was recommended in 3 of the top 5 video results, and Dale's a practical guy. He owned a can. He sprayed it. 2 weeks later, the truck was running rough at idle and dying at stoplights. Cold start took 12 seconds of cranking. Fuel economy dropped from 18 to 14 miles per gallon on his highway commute out to Franklin. That's when he came in. I pulled the MAF sensor. Under a shop light, you could see it, a fine oily residue on the platinum hot wire elements inside the housing. That residue is what you get when the solvent in WD-40 evaporates off and the petroleum oil base doesn't. On a MAF sensor, that hot wire element measures airflow by tracking how much current it takes to keep the wire at a specific temperature against the air passing over it. Coat that wire in any residue, and the temperature reading drifts. Now the ECU is calculating fuel injection based on a wrong airflow number, running rich at some points and lean at others. And the check engine light comes back the second the OBD monitor completes a driving cycle. $220 for a new MAF sensor, plus $95 in shop time to install and reset the codes. $315 total. Dale was frustrated, not at the sensor, at himself. He'd been reading DIY forums for years and had thought he was doing it right. Stay through to Category 4 at about 14 minutes in. That's the 4 hacks that quietly wreck MAF sensors, fuel injectors, and paint clear coats. The exact category Dale's spray fell into. I've documented 7 customer cases just like Dale's in the last 18 months. Average bill $300 to $800. Every one of them tracing back to a hack that shows up in the top 5 search results. If you take one thing from this walkthrough, take the 4 items in Category 4. That's the one that turns your $10 can of WD-40 into a rebuild quote. Dale isn't dumb. He's read every mechanic subreddit that exists. But he ran into the same trap that catches probably a quarter of the WD-40 hacks you see online. The product works fantastically for what it was actually engineered to do back in 1953, and it's the wrong chemistry for about half of what the internet says it does. I'll walk through all 18. Sorted into 4 honest categories: where it's the right tool, where it's a legitimate emergency fix, where a $5 alternative is genuinely better, and where following the advice literally will hurt your car. Dale's F-150 is in Category 4. 9 of the other 17 are in Categories 1 and 2. Meaning WD-40 is a reasonable choice for over half of what the internet claims. I want to be specific about which half is which. 2 minutes on what's actually in a can of WD-40, because it matters for every hack on this list. 1953. Norm Larson at Rocket Chemical Company in San Diego. The company was trying to formulate a rust-preventive solvent for the aerospace industry, for use on the outer skin of the Atlas missile specifically. They needed something that would displace water off cold metal parts and leave a light protective film that would resist future corrosion. They failed 39 times. On the 40th try, they got a formula that worked. Water displacement, 40th formula, that's the name. WD-40. The MSDS is public. WD-40 publishes it themselves. Anyone can download it from the WD-40 corporate website. Read what the chemistry actually says, not what the 10-second video with the caption, "Mechanics hate this," claims. If you actually pull it up and read the composition section, the formula is roughly this. Aliphatic hydrocarbons, about 50%. Petroleum-based solvent, Stoddard solvent, or a close cousin, about 25%. Petroleum base oil, a light mineral oil, about 15%. Carbon dioxide propellant, about 2 to 3%. And a small percentage of trade secret additives, mostly corrosion inhibitors and surfactants. 3 functional properties matter for us on a car. 1. It's a volatile solvent that displaces water. The Stoddard solvent component flashes off cold metal surfaces in minutes, and as it evaporates, it carries away trapped moisture. This is what the WD in the name actually refers to: water displacement. It works exactly as advertised for wet ignition components, wet spark plug wires, wet distributor caps on cars old enough to have distributors, and any other electrical connection that's caught rain. 2. It's a light penetrating agent. The low viscosity oil base has enough surface tension to work its way into rust between 2 mating metal surfaces, like a stuck bolt in an iron block. Not aggressive penetration compared to something like PB Blaster or Croil, but real short-term penetration. 3. It's a very light lubricant. The oil residue left after the solvent evaporates is thinner than any dedicated lubricant. It's fine for a metal-on-metal pivot with almost no load, like a hinge on a mailbox. Anything with real load, a bearing, a bushing, a gear, needs a proper grease, and the WD-40 film will fail within days. What WD-40 isn't? It isn't a cleaner for delicate electronics. It isn't a lubricant for high-load bearings. It isn't a rust preventive that lasts more than a few weeks. It isn't a leather conditioner. It isn't a plastic protectant. It isn't a belt slip suppressant. If a hack says it does one of those things, either the hack is wrong or the situation is very specific and short-term. Aliphatic hydrocarbon solvent, light mineral oil residue. That's it. Everything downstream from this list flows from those 2 chemistries. 4 buckets, starting with the good news. Category 1. Uses where WD-40 is legitimately the right tool for the job and where I still keep a can in the truck. 5 items. Number 1 in this category. Water displacement out of wet ignition components after a car has been flooded, sitting in heavy rain with the hood open, or gone through a bad car wash where water got into places it shouldn't. Spark plug wires, distributor caps on older cars, coil packs on newer ones. Pop the hood. Spray a light coat across the electrical connections. Let it sit for 2 minutes. Blow off with compressed air if you have it. The solvent carries the water away. This is exactly the job WD-40 was formulated for in 1953. Nothing else does it better for the same money. Number 2. Loosening a stuck bolt or a rusted fastener for short-term extraction. The classic use case. Old license plate bolts, exhaust manifold nuts, suspension hardware that hasn't come off in 5 years. Spray. Wait 10 minutes. Tap the head of the bolt with a hammer to shock the rust bond. Spray again. Wait. Try to break it loose with a socket. It's not the strongest penetrant on the market. PB Blaster and Croil both work better for the really stuck stuff. But it's cheaper and it's already in most toolboxes. For a moderately stuck fastener, one afternoon, it's fine. Number 3. Sticker or adhesive residue removal from painted metal, chrome, and glass. The volatile solvent component dissolves the adhesive gum from expired parking permits, price tag stickers on new parts, and the residue left by removed decals. Spray on a rag first, not directly on the painted surface, and wipe. Follow up with soap and water because the oily residue will attract dust. Works on glass, works on painted metal, works on chrome. Does not damage automotive clear coat at brief contact times. Extended soaking, 20 minutes plus, starts to be a concern, but a normal 30-second contact is fine. Number 4. Insect and bug removal from the front grille, headlight housings, and painted lower bumper areas. Spray on the affected surface. Let sit for 2 or 3 minutes. Wipe with a microfiber cloth, then wash the area with car soap immediately after. The solvent breaks down the protein glue from insect exoskeletons that bakes onto paint in summer heat. Same caution about oily residue attracting dust. Wash it off, don't leave it. But for freeing dead bugs cemented onto your headlight lenses, it's fast and it works. Number 5. Light chrome polishing between waxings. Chrome that's still in good shape, smooth, uncorroded, takes a light WD-40 wipe well. The oil residue displaces water beading, and the solvent lifts light oxidation. Same technique as sticker removal. WD-40 on a rag. Wipe, buff. It's not a substitute for a proper chrome polish like Mother's or Semi-Chrome, but it's a legitimate holdover between full detail cycles, and it's exactly what a lot of old-school car guys have done for 60 years. Same technique works on chrome exhaust tips. Quick wipe on the outside dissolves the light soot film that accumulates from tailpipe residue and brings back the mirror finish. Doesn't do anything for burnt-on carbon deposits inside the tip. That takes mechanical cleaning with steel wool or a proper chrome polish paste. But for the outside of the tip, it's a 2-minute detail job that makes a rear 3/4 photo of your truck look sharp. Category 1 Summary: water displacement, penetration, adhesive removal, insect removal, light chrome. 5 uses where WD-40 is either the best choice or a perfectly reasonable one. Roughly a third of the internet hacks. Category 2. Uses where WD-40 will get you out of a bad spot right now, but where you should switch to a different product before the same problem repeats. 5 items. Number 1. Freeing a frozen fuel filler door or fuel cap in winter. Below freezing weather, the fuel door mechanism or the cap threads freeze up and you can't get the cap off to fill up. There's also a second scenario worth mentioning. On modern EVAP-equipped vehicles, roughly post-2010, a fuel cap that seats improperly because of ice can trigger a P0442 or P0455 evaporative emissions leak code. The check engine light comes on, and the ECU logs a small or gross EVAP leak because the sealed fuel vapor system can't complete its pressure test. That's the false engine warning people talk about with fuel cap issues. It's not the sensor, it's the seal. WD-40 around the cap perimeter and the hinge dissolves the ice and displaces the water. Works fast. But the residue that stays behind will attract dust and can drip into the filler neck opening. Wipe off the excess with a rag, get through the fill-up, and next time you're at the parts store, pick up a small can of dry silicone spray for $8. Reapply the silicone at the start of winter. It doesn't drip, doesn't attract dust, and doesn't get anywhere near your fuel. Number 2. Loosening a stuck parking brake cable on a car that's been sitting for a month or 6. The cable housing at the rear wheel end corrodes internally, and the cable binds. WD-40 at the two ends of the housing and worked back and forth by pumping the parking brake pedal will free it up enough to drive to a shop the same day. But the fix isn't lubrication. The fix is either a new cable or a proper high-viscosity chain lube inside the housing. WD-40 as a temporary rescue is fine. WD-40 as a permanent solution is a cable that binds again in 2 months. Number 3. Quieting a squeaky door hinge until you can get to a proper lubricant. Spray on the hinge pin, work the door open and closed a few times. Silence. Same drip and dust problem as everything else. And for a car door that opens and closes 20 times a day, the WD-40 film wears through in about 2 weeks. White lithium grease from an aerosol can, $4, does the job for a year on a single application. Same wait and work approach. Spray, work the pin, wipe the excess. Number 4. Freeing a seized side mirror power fold mechanism. If your driver's side power folding mirror stops folding, common on cars that sit outside, especially in salt belt winters, a shot of WD-40 at the pivot point, followed by manually working the mirror fold cycle 3 or 4 times, usually breaks it loose. This is a one-shot fix. If the mechanism seizes again in 6 months, the actual failure mode is a corroded or worn internal motor drive, and you're either living with it or replacing the mirror assembly. $300 to $700, parts and labor on most cars. Number 5. Removing minor mineral spots and hard water etching from side windows and side view mirrors. This is the reference for what viral WD-40 videos are usually promoting. It works. The solvent dissolves the calcium carbonate residue from hard water, but it also leaves the oil film I keep mentioning. And on glass, that oil film will smear the next time you use your wipers in the rain. Follow up with regular glass cleaner immediately. Or, if you're doing this as a driveway prep, wash the window with dish soap after. For hard water etching that's actually eaten into the glass, you'll know because you can feel the roughness with your fingertip. WD-40 is a mask, not a fix. Real repair is polishing the glass with a cerium oxide compound. $30 to $50 for the kit, an afternoon of your time. Category 2 Summary. Frozen fuel cap. Stuck parking brake cable. Squeaky hinge. Seized mirror fold. Minor mineral spots on glass. 5 uses where WD-40 gets you through today, but shouldn't be your standing answer. Category 3. Uses where WD-40 is what the internet recommends, but there's a specifically better $5 product that will do the job right the first time. 4 items. Number 1. Lubricating internal window regulator mechanisms. The gears, tracks, and pivots inside the door that raise and lower the glass. This gets recommended every time someone posts a slow-moving power window online. The problem is that the internal mechanism runs plastic rollers against nylon-coated steel tracks, and WD-40's solvent will attack certain plastics. Over time, it can dry out the nylon coating and make the regulator worse than it started. And the oil residue attracts dust that grinds against the plastic rollers. The correct product is white lithium grease in a needle tip applicator or silicone spray specifically labeled for automotive door mechanisms, $4 to $6. Same door panel removal work, right chemistry, doesn't attack the plastics, and doesn't attract dust. Number 2. Lubricating a sticky ignition lock cylinder. Small caveat here. WD-40 works better than the previous common wrong answer, which is petroleum jelly. It doesn't gum up the wafers as dramatically, But it still leaves an oil residue in the cylinder that attracts key wear metal particles and dust, and 6 to 18 months later, you're back to a sticky cylinder or a key that won't turn. The right product is powdered graphite lock lubricant, $3 at any hardware store, or dry PTFE spray if you prefer aerosols. Both work on the physics of the lock, a fine, dry particle that fills the gaps between the wafers and the cylinder walls without leaving anything that can get sticky. Number 3. Lubricating interior door lock cylinders and trunk lock cylinders. The ones with the physical key backup on cars where the fob has stopped working, or on older cars, period. Same mechanism as the ignition, same wrong tool problem, same right answer. Powdered graphite. If you've been using WD-40 for years on a lock, and now the key barely turns, the fix is often a can of compressed air, an isopropyl alcohol flush to strip the residue, and a fresh graphite application. 20 minutes of your time. Number 4. Battery terminal corrosion prevention. Same story I told last week on the Vaseline video. Anything petroleum-based that isn't specifically formulated for the temperature and electrical environment of a battery post will migrate down between the clamp and the terminal, trap moisture underneath, and cause under-clamp corrosion that isn't visible on a surface inspection. Dielectric grease, silicone-based, $5 per 1-ounce tube, coats 20 batteries. Category 3 summary. Window regulators, ignition locks, other lock cylinders, battery terminals. 4 uses where the internet is close but wrong, and the right answer is under $6 at any auto parts counter. Now this is the category that pays for the video. Category 4 is the 4 hacks that quietly turn your $10 spray can into a repair bill. This is where the top 5 search results become the problem, and where 3 of Dale's neighbors in Nashville have called me in the last year with the same story. Uses where WD-40 will actively damage the component you're trying to help, and where the internet advice will cost you money if you follow it. 4 items. Dale's F-150 is in Category 4-1. Number 1. Cleaning a mass airflow sensor with regular WD-40. This is the Dale case. Any oily residue on the hot wire element inside the sensor housing changes how the wire responds to airflow, and the ECU calculates fuel injection based on wrong readings. Rough idle, poor fuel economy, cold start problems, eventually a hard failure and a $200+ sensor replacement. And the specific detail that catches people is this. WD-40 as a company sells their own MAF sensor cleaner, WD-40 Specialist Mass Airflow Sensor Cleaner, because they know regular WD-40 doesn't work for this. That product is a specific solvent formulation with almost no residue, about $9. CRC also makes one. Berryman makes one. Any of those on an MAF sensor applied per the label instructions. Regular WD-40 in the blue and red can. Never. Number 2. Silencing a squeaky serpentine belt or drive belt. This is the one that will actually damage engine components. A serpentine belt squeals for one of 2 reasons. Either the belt itself is glazed from age and slipping across the pulley grooves, or the tensioner spring has weakened and isn't holding the belt against the pulleys with enough force. Spraying WD-40 on the belt will silence the squeal for about 3 minutes by lubricating the slippage. Then the belt will slip more, not less, because now it has oil residue on the friction surfaces. Alternator underperforms because the pulley can't drive it against the belt slip. Battery voltage drops. Water pump underperforms, potentially overheating the engine on the freeway. Power steering feels erratic on some cars. I've seen customers come in 3 days after spraying a belt with a completely burned out alternator and a dead battery, and one who lost water pump drive on I-40 east of Nashville and cooked a head gasket. The fix for a squealing belt is a new tensioner and, if the belt is glazed, a new belt. $60 to $120 in parts on most cars. Never lubricate a drive belt, not with anything. Number 3. Conditioning leather seats. This gets recommended in older DIY forum posts, and I've heard it from customers as recently as this year. The premise is that WD-40's oil residue will darken and soften faded leather. It does, for about a week. Then the aromatic solvent component starts pulling the natural oils out of the leather substrate, and the surface goes from soft to hard to cracked over about 6 months of repeated application. Leather car seats are chromium-tanned hides with specific oil and wax finishes designed to hold moisture. WD-40 strips those. Use a proper leather conditioner. Leatherique, Lexol, or Chemical Guy's leather conditioner. $10 to $20 for a bottle that treats a full interior twice. Same story for the hard plastic trim on your dashboard, door panels, and center console. Same aromatic solvent, same plasticizer extraction cascade over months. Plastic that starts glossy, goes dull, then hard, then develops the fine surface cracking you see on old dashboards left in the sun on cars from the mid-90s. If someone tells you to condition interior plastic with WD-40 because it makes the dash look wet black, the wet black look is exactly the moment before the plastic starts losing its own plasticizers. Use a proper interior dressing. 303 Aerospace, Meguiar's, or Chemical Guy's Interior Detailer. Water-based, different chemistry designed to condition plastic without stripping it. $10 to $15 for a bottle that lasts a year. Number 4. Cleaning oxygen sensors or spraying anywhere near an O2 sensor connector. Oxygen sensors have a ceramic element inside a metal housing, and the ceramic is sensitive to hydrocarbon contamination, specifically hydrocarbon vapor drawn into the sensor as the exhaust flow changes on startup and shutdown. WD-40 near an O2 sensor connector and hydrocarbon vapors get pulled into the sensor housing, coat the ceramic, and change the sensor's voltage response. Bad readings, fuel trim errors, check engine light. Sometimes replacement of the sensor at $100 to $300. If an O2 sensor connector is corroded, the right product is CRC Electronic Contact Cleaner or the WD-40 Specialist Contact Cleaner. Same argument as the MAF hack. The company sells a specific product for this because regular WD-40 is wrong. Category 4 Summary. MAF sensor, drive belt, leather seats, oxygen sensor. 4 uses where the internet advice will damage the exact component it claims to fix. 18 hacks, 4 categories. Category 1, 5 uses. Water displacement, stuck bolts, adhesive removal, insect removal, chrome polish. WD-40 is the right tool. Keep it in the truck. Category 2, 5 uses. Frozen fuel cap, stuck parking brake, squeaky hinges, seized mirror fold, glass mineral spots, emergency only. Keep WD-40 available, but the standing lubricant is different. Silicone spray for the fuel cap, chain lube for the parking brake cable, white lithium for the hinges, and for glass, a follow-up wash with dish soap or a switch to a proper rain-repellent coating. Category 3, 4 uses: window regulator, ignition lock, other lock cylinders, battery terminals. Not damaging, but genuinely wrong tool. White lithium for the window regulator, powdered graphite for the locks, dielectric grease for the battery. Category 4. 4 uses: MAF sensor, drive belt, leather seats, oxygen sensor. Actively damaging. WD-40's own specialist line has an MAF-specific and a contact cleaner variant for the electronics. Those are correct products. For the drive belt, no lubricant, period. Replace the tensioner. For leather, a leather-specific conditioner. Core pattern behind all of this. WD-40 is a volatile solvent with a light oil residue. Anywhere on the car where you need a volatile solvent to displace water or dissolve something short-term, and where you can wipe or wash off the residue afterward, WD-40 is right. Anywhere the residue can't be removed. Inside a lock cylinder, inside a MAF sensor housing, on the friction surface of a belt, sitting on a leather substrate for weeks. WD-40 is wrong. Volatile solvent, light oil residue. 2 properties. Every hack in this list either works with those 2 properties or fights them. One last cross-contamination point that applies to categories 3 and 4. If you've been WD-40ing a component for years and now switching to the correct alternative, the transition matters. WD-40 residue on a MAF sensor doesn't just get displaced by MAF cleaner. It can mix with the new cleaner and dilute its effectiveness. Same on a lock cylinder. Powdered graphite mixes with WD-40 residue to form a paste that's worse than either product alone. For any category 3 or 4 component you're switching, first flush the residue. Isopropyl alcohol for electronics, compressed air for lock cylinders, brake cleaner for metal fasteners. Then apply the correct product to a clean, dry surface. Otherwise, the switch fails, and you blame the new product. None of the correct alternatives are expensive. WD-40 Specialist Contact Cleaner, $9. WD-40 Specialist Mass Airflow Sensor Cleaner, $9. WD-40 Specialist Silicone Spray, $7. CRC MAF Cleaner, $7. Generic Silicone Spray, $8. White Lithium Grease Aerosol, $4. Powdered Graphite Lock Lube, $3. Dielectric Grease 1-ounce tube, $5. Leather Conditioner from Lexol or Chemical Guys, $10 to $20. Interior Plastic Detailer from 303 or Meguiar's, $10 to $15. Serpentine Belt Tensioner from most auto parts sources, $60 to $120. Parts on common vehicles. If you're stocking a proper toolbox for the 10 most common WD-40 misuses, you're at about $50 in specific chemistry that will do each of these jobs correctly for the next 5 to 10 years. Dale, since October, hasn't sprayed WD-40 on anything with a sensor. He replaced his MAF sensor. That was $315 for a hack he read in the top 5 search results. And I gave him a can of the WD-40 Specialist MAF cleaner to keep in the truck for next time, because MAF sensors do genuinely get dirty over the years, and the right cleaner brings them back. $315 turned into a $9 can that goes back to the right place. That's the whole trade. He still uses regular WD-40. For stuck exhaust bolts on his brother's ancient Silverado. For sticker residue when he's cleaning up a used vehicle to sell. For freeing up the parking brake cable on his dad's boat trailer that sits in a barn 10 months of the year. The right tool in the right places. That's about it. The comment I'm actually curious about: what's the WD-40 hack you learned from a friend or a family member that you've quietly stopped doing? Not a call-out of the person who told you, just the specific hack where you either felt it stop working or realized the residue was showing up somewhere it shouldn't. Drop it in the comments. I'll go through them. And if enough of you flag the same one that I didn't cover, that's the next video. If any part of this saved you a MAF sensor or a set of belts, the way this channel keeps going is the subscribe button and a comment about what you drive. That's it. No hard pitch. I'll be under a truck later this week. See you then.